fixtures, the differentials, and the Q&A. Let's start with the hitter discussions of how do you play this? Is this a reason? Is this a season to shift them around or stick to the ones you have?
I think rather than talk about the conclusion first, let's discuss this in general because it's not like, something you can really explain in a few words. So first of all, let's look at some ownership combinations. So just, the Holy Trinity, as it's been named now, KDB, Salah, and Bruno, is owned by just 1.2% of the game. The above three with Son, I've seen this in a few teams, it's only 0.26%. Now, KDB, Bruno, and Son is 3.6. KDB, Bruno, Kane is 2.3. Bruno, Son, and Kane is, I think, one of the most popular combinations, but it is still only at 12%. And Son and Kane combined are in 28% of teams. So now this leads itself to an interesting dynamic. This was a tweet by Ragaboli, the guy who runs live FPL, after the Arsenal game. So Son and Kane both had 75% EO. That's effective ownership each. So that means if you owned one of them and not the other, you gained quarter of the points of the one you have, and you lost 3/4 points of the other against the average. So what effectively this meant that if both of them were on 11 points, you gain 2.75 and you lose 8.25. So effectively, if you had Son and not Kane, you still lost rank. The only way you really gained rank is if you had both, like Tom did. So this is interesting. Something we have to consider in terms of let's talk. I would like the discussion to be more about strategy, because ultimately the ultimate goal is still to make up rank, isn't it?
Correct. So what's your thinking with the strategy given these figures and what you've seen so far?
See, I think more or less, if you're in the top 10K, maybe if in the top 50K, even though it's early season, maybe you hold on to both. But I can't see how you can make ground if you own, let's say one, or I think if you have to make ground up the ranks, you have to go without these guys, in a nutshell.
To make ground quickly, I guess. You still make ground if you own these guys, if they're performing. It's just whether you want to make ground quickly, because in my opinion, the tough fixtures which Spurs had done, the opportunity there was in terms of making ground, not owning the Spurs players, was in the past few weeks. Now the next fixtures for them are Palace, Liverpool, Leicester, Wolves, Fulham, and Leeds. Now, except for the Liverpool game, and Liverpool aren't the best defensive team at the moment. We saw Brighton open them apart quite a few games, but Mourinho is going to pass there and go for a nil. I see all those other games as fairly decent games against not such great defenses at the moment. So I don't know if that's the strategy. What's your thinking there, Tom?
Yeah, well, I don't know. This season, it's kind of like anything we've seen before. I think previously we've kind of thought, is a premium worth owning if you're not going to captain them? That's been the kind of the discussion over the past few years. And this season, it probably is worth owning them because so many of them are performing. And I guess it's that, is Kane and Jota better than, I don't know, say Calvert-Lewin and Son or Grealish and Ings kind of thing? So it's that kind of conversation which you've got to, that's the kind of the discussion point. But for me, I've got four in at the moment. I've got Kane and I've got Vardy and I've got De Bruyne and I've got Son. This week it worked. I would quite like to lose one of them, I think, going forward. But
no Man City, no Liverpool, Tom?
He's got De Bruyne.
De Bruyne. Yeah, so this is now where, which we'll talk about later, I want to get Salah in. So it's going to be a case of losing probably one of those forward players. So yeah, I mean, this season does feel unlike any other, really. But then I think you've got to look at captaincy and you've got to think, is it worth holding on to these kind of premiums if you're not going to captain them? And that's the way I would that's in my head how I'm going to plan to work out which ones I want to own over the next few weeks. I've still got Son and Kane, but that's more because I haven't played a wild card yet or anything like that, and there's been other fires to put out. I can totally see why people moved off them 2 or 3 weeks ago in an attempt to kind of gain rank.
That's interesting.
So what's the thinking then? You mentioned you own Son and Kane. Are you looking at sacrificing one of them right now to get Salah? I think we can have the discussion right now because
I mean, I'm not going to come out and say I've got a definitive plan at the moment because I haven't. Basically, if I want to get Salah in, I probably need to lose either Vardy or Kane. At the moment, which is maybe a bit surprising. I'm edging towards losing Kane right now, just because I like Vardy for the next two. I know that he's kind of underwhelmed over the last couple. I mean, the whole Leicester situation with playing three at the back, they haven't offered much going forward. But I just think for these next two, I think Brighton and then that Everton fixture after, I've got a feeling that I might look back on that if I lose Vardy now and think, why didn't I stick to the plan and hold him for that 3 or 4 game stretch? So I would consider losing Kane right now. Son's hard to lose at the moment, because we talk about him as a premium, but he's still a lot cheaper than a lot of those premiums, if you know what I mean. So he offers a lot of value. He's just one of the best finishers in the league. So the moment, basically, my scenario is I can either take out Jota or I can take out Mahrez and go to Salah and then downgrade one of the forwards to a 6.5-ish forward, which is where I'm at the moment. But I think Champions League might dictate what I do, and once we see minutes and that kind of thing, and then make a decision on that later in the week.
So what about Bruno? You don't own Bruno as well, right?
I've never owned Bruno, no. So,
is he in your thinking?
No.
Based on the captaincy at the moment?
No,
not in your thinking.
No, not at all. So I don't know. I mean, United, I think you've touched on it before a few times in this, Bruno, when we spoke, that you've got worries about the attack and how it functions. I don't think they score enough at home. They tend to play for 45 minutes in most games these days, don't they? Past few weeks, it's taken like a half-time reaction for them to kind of kick into gear. And I think he's a good option. I'm not saying Fernandes isn't a good option, but I just will not captain him over the next 4, 5, 6 game weeks. So that's the reason why I'm hesitant to hold him. So
I mean, just while we're having this conversation, what's bothering me and why I haven't made ground in the past is because I haven't paid enough attention to goal involvement. Now, my thinking while I was trying to make ground in the past few weeks was that Chelsea is a team that's going to be more attacking. Chelsea is a team that's going to be scoring more goals. So I went there. City is a team that's going to be scoring more goals. I went there. City did score more goals than Spurs. Chelsea did score more goals than Spurs. But the goal involvement did me when it came to Kane, when it came to Son, and when it came to Bruno. So there seems to be a little bit of a dilemma and a debate in my head where, I'm reading the game right in terms of identifying the teams that are more attacking, that are scoring more goals. But you have to pay attention to goal involvement. Now, I think of a goal that Spurs are going to score, and it's difficult to think about them scoring without these two involved at the moment. So that's the little debate that I'm having in my head, because historically I've been more inclined towards betting on the more aggressive teams, betting on the more attacking teams. But this is something that's bothering. So where do you stand on this entire picture?
So I'll just allow me, I'd just like to walk through the captaincy matrix, what we have plans for the next 5 weeks. So let's look all the way up to game week 17. So now in game week 12, Salah is outstanding captain pick. He plays Fulham at home. KDB and Bruno play each other. Spurs play Palace away. So Salah picks himself there. Game week 13 is a little bit more dodgy because you have a little bit of a short turnaround for Man City. But KDB has West Brom at home. Bruno has Sheffield United away. Salah plays Spurs at Anfield. So these 2 weeks, I don't think you can really look at a Spurs player for captain. You have to look probably at Salah or KDB, in which case you're fine, Tom.
It's just while mentioning game week 13, it's a little worrisome for KDB as an asset, because we're not really sure if he's going to play, because that game sandwiched between the United and the Southampton game, and that's 3 games in a period of 7 days. So do you think KDB starts the West Brom home game?
I think so, because he's taking this entire week probably off, right? He's probably won't feature at all in the midweek Champions League. And I think KDB is sort of irreplaceable in this attack. Now, he's playing these 2 CDMs in Gundogan and Rodri. Who do you think can play that KDB role in the City side? Bernardo? Foden? Because he's played Foden almost as a wing player, I think, mostly this season, right?
So there's Foden and there's Bernardo. Those two who can play.
Bernardo, yeah. But the hope is that if he is given the night off, it'll be a complete rest. So at least your vice captain kicks in then. The worry is if he gets 20 minutes or 15 minutes off the bench.
Which he probably will if they need him.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you would think that City, okay, the attack isn't going to function quite as well as it would do without De Bruyne, but you would hope by that point there would be a couple of goals to the good against West Brom, I guess.
Yeah. My worry about that West Brom at home game is not just that they play Saints after Saints they have Arsenal at home, but that's the
Carabao
Carling
Cup.
Cup fixture. So they're not going to play.
Yeah,
Sorry, I
sure.
misread that. So he's definitely going to be rested. You're not worried. You'll be confident captaining KDB in that fixture.
Tom, what do you think?
It's kind of hard to say right now. I think we need to see exactly what happens before that. But at the moment, I don't like letting these decisions too far ahead. It impact the way that I see transfers and things like that. It's very hard to say now exactly where we're going to be with that. So at the moment, yeah, he's the standout captaincy that week above everybody else. So that's where I'm at the moment. But like I say, if you stick the armband on him, hopefully, and he does miss out, hopefully he'll miss the whole 90 minutes and your voice can kick in. So
for the
if Mahrez is rested for the United game, let's say, would you be tempted to hand him the armband for that West Brom home game?
I mean, we had a lot of these questions on, or I did anyway, on pre-deadline on Saturday, because obviously we've got that hint on Friday night that Mahrez was starting. I bought him in for Rashford. I just didn't feel comfortable giving him the armband. There's something about me this year which tends to gravitate towards the premium players, and the fact that De Bruyne was on penalties, it swung it for me.
This week was different because there was no risk of De Bruyne getting benched because we know that he's rested midweek. I'm talking about we're going to have a worry about De Bruyne in that West Brom home game. So that's
I mean, if there is I probably would go for it, but I'd make sure my voice was probably on Vardy. I would have thought if I still own him, and hope that kicks in. Right.
Rock on the same page.
So see, the thing is, I would probably maybe consider somebody else if there were other good candidates. Now Liverpool plays Spurs. I think that's probably the next best option. Because
Bruno Sheffield away.
See, it's a Sheffield I don't trust because I expect them to concede, but don't expect them to concede truckloads. Maybe a goal or two, not more than that. So I think just purely because of the lack of a different fixture and the ceiling, right? Now, let's say if KDB does start versus West Brom. So then that could be anything. The last few games we've seen KDB could have had scores of 20 plus. He's been a bit unlucky. Sure. So you could find the shoe on the other foot that day. Maybe on that day he goes lucky and you never know what he can do. So purely because of fear of rotation risk to not captain him against possibly the worst team in the league.
Fair enough. I mean, just to add to what you said in terms of Sheffield United away being a fixture that it was last season, my thinking is realigned because I saw the Leicester-Sheffield United game at the weekend. I thought they were not that good a team. Leicester dominated for most parts of the game. They controlled possession. I feel like United will be able to hurt them. So it's I mean, I'd back Bruno to get returns in that game just based on what I've seen.
Yeah, it's an away fixture.
Second choice.
Bruno as an away fixture, I think. Yeah, because this isn't the Pochettino Spurs that used to roll over in the Big Six games, right? So Jose will probably go park double-decker buses at Anfield. So not the best fixture for Salah.
No.
Yeah. So the next week is where it probably gets a bit tricky, I think. Now you have Bruno who plays Leeds at home in game week 14. That's probably the outstanding fixture. KDB has Saints away. Salah has Palace away, and this is the dreaded early kickoff on Saturday, which Klopp hates. And Spurs plays Leicester at home, which is not a bad fixture, I guess, for the likes of Kane or Son to captain. That's not that bad.
Yeah, Leicester defensive numbers have been pretty poor as well of late.
Pretty poor. And just Brendan Rodgers, what he's going to do, turn up there, have all the possession, concede on the counter-attack.
Yeah, 2-0.
You don't think he's learned from last season? Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not. So where do you guys, let's just put you guys on the spot there. Is there a ranking that you guys have in terms of I'm going to stick with these two or these three guys and I might shuffle guy X or Y? What's your thinking there?
Tom?
Yeah, so Salah I put ahead of every other premium in the game. So I think he has to come in for me. And then I kind of a tier below that, I want to own De Bruyne with that game week 13. I know there's kind of concerns around rotation, but at this moment in time, I put him ahead of everybody in 13. So Salah and De Bruyne, I will probably keep Son in there. And then I may have one premium attacker in there somewhere, probably Vardy. And I'm kind of eyeing a Vardy to Werner move, possibly in 14, which I think we can see on that shot when, possibly then when Vardy's fixtures kind of turn a touch when he plays Spurs. So that's my kind of thinking: Salah, De Bruyne, and Son, and then one premium attacker, which may switch over the next few weeks.
Zoff, you agree?
So I think for me, like, I want to go without the Spurs guys. I want to take that risk because I don't think the managers who are Spurs are going to be facing the next few weeks, maybe Brendan Rodgers apart, are going to be as naive as Arteta was. Because Arteta did exactly what Jose wanted. Had all the possession, left himself open
Yeah.
on the defense, got countered. I don't think Nuno is going to do that. I don't think Hodgson's going to do that. I don't.
Like they're going to have to play against Palace, Leicester, and not against Leicester maybe, but they're going to have to play against Palace and Wolves.
Yeah, and Liverpool is a tough fixture anyway, even with all the defensive injuries and all that stuff. So I'm going to bank on the other managers trying to keep Spurs out because Spurs numbers
Yeah.
aren't really great. I'll show you guys the slides later. They're having the same number of shots in the box as Burnley over the last
That doesn't
4
seem to
matches.
matter though. Like I mentioned earlier, that doesn't seem to matter.
I mean, not
Yes.
everyone can be the tactical genius that Frank Lampard is. So obviously, they're all,
I think like
all-
Pranil says, if they're going to score one or two, which you'd still probably expect them to in most of those games, like you say, there's such a high chance that Son or Kane will be involved in those goals.
Correct.
That there is, but I think if you've done what you've done and you've decided to move off, I think you've got to see it through now. I don't think there's any
Absolutely.
point in going back to them now, is there? You've got to see it through for the next run of fixtures and then realign those thoughts maybe in game week 16
Precisely.
when Fulham comes around.
So So that's what I've got down over here also. So now game week 15 is KDB plays Newcastle at home. Salah has West Brom at home. Bruno has Leicester away. Spurs have Wolves away. Now the interesting part here is KDB has Arsenal in the League Cup 3 days before. Now if he's rested in that game, he's an easy captain again for Newcastle. So after this is where game week 16 is where it gets tricky. Because then the turnaround is really short. It's from the 26th to the 28th. Salah has Newcastle away. Bruno has Wolves at home. KDB has Everton away. Spurs have Fulham at home. This is what I've got penciled in as my KDB to Sun move. Because this is where the fixtures are really congested. This is where I expect KDB to possibly miss either this Everton game or because right after this, I think 2-3 days later is Chelsea. Now he's definitely going to play Chelsea away. There's absolutely no doubt about that. So this is probably where I've got earmarked as my KDB to Sun switch.
Yep, fair enough. Actually, in alignment, you own at the moment. You own Salah, Bruno, and De Bruyne.
Yep, I'll get to my team. I moved early for Salah this week at the expense of Vardy. I had 0.0 wiggle room, so I've got those three in place now.
And you're going to stick with them for a while because the captaincy suits.
Actually,
your
still
thing.
15,
And then relook at things.
and then relook at things precisely.
And are you looking at adding another big hitter to that armory?
No, for that I'd have to compromise in my defense, and I really don't want to go for a more balanced approach in terms of that.
Yeah, nice that City double defense came through for you this week.
Hopefully Cancelo keeps getting games.
Yeah. My thinking is also in alignment with Tom at the moment. I'm looking to get Salah at the moment. Sterling showed signs of a revival of form, but I think Salah matches him on form. I think Liverpool have an easier fixture schedule compared to City at the moment, and I'm very confident that Salah is going to start most of the games, except for that Palace game that you mentioned early kickoff. So for me, Salah and KDB are top two. I think KDB has. I think not many people have realized that KDB has become an even stronger asset than he was last season.
The position is insane.
6 shots in the box, most shots in the box amongst any City asset. Now we've seen a lot of these City home banker games earlier. KDB hasn't dominated a game from a goal scoring point of view as much as he did recently, and that's not just happened this game week. It's happened in the past 3 or 4 game weeks as well. So I'm of the thinking that you get these two as a base, and then you decide what you want to do with the other assets, because KDB and Salah also are pretty good on goal involvement. You tend to think that they're going to be involved in the goals, and you tend to think that Liverpool and City are going to be scoring more goals than your Spurs at the moment, and then you see how you want to plan around. Now, before we move on from the heavy hitter conversation, there's a big dilemma in my head, and so if I want to come to you with this, Timo Werner, what do I do?
Which of the heavy hitters do you plan to move him for?
I don't plan to move him this week. I think Everton's a good game. But generally, what do you think about Timo Werner in terms of what has happened in the past few weeks?
It's a difficult one because I think there's a little bit of poor finishing, there's a little bit of bad luck there, but I think the fixtures are pretty good in terms of on paper, right? I don't think Wolves away is a difficult fixture. It was in the previous years, especially if he sticks to a back four. Everton have been leaky. West Ham, as we'll get into later, have been quite leaky too. Arsenal, nothing more needs to be said. So, what has happened now, I think, is with Ziyech's injury, it has a twofold impact. A, the service to him will be affected, right? Without Ziyech putting those balls into the far post, he is going to get less service. But B, it's now made him slightly bit more nailed because you have Hudson-Odoi and Ziyech who are injured. So we have pretty much only two natural wingers who are fit in Pulisic and Werner.
So is Werner, because will he move to the right now?
I think he
What
might
would
have
do,
to.
sorry.
That's what happened the last game. You'd have to move Pulisic to the right.
Is that a good thing? Is that good?
There was one
I don't
game
think so.
earlier where Pulisic was playing on the
Right.
and Werner was playing on the left. So I don't know if
I
that's.
think they might rotate a little bit.
Yeah.
Might rotate a little bit. But yeah, on the right, I don't know. I haven't seen Werner play much more on the right. But the problem is, I don't think he's very confident shooting with his left foot. A lot of the finishes, you see the mistakes he's made. He could have taken a natural touch with his left foot, but he opted to shoot with his right. So that would probably make him more of an assister than a goal scorer, like we saw with the last goal against Leeds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what would your advice to the Werner owners be? Hold on, watch the next game or two.
I would probably, honestly, if you don't have one of these three, I would probably still move him on to Bruno. And I say that with a heavy heart.
All right, fair enough. See, for me, I have an easier route to Salah in terms of Sterling, and I've got the cash, and that was a pre-planned move. But if somebody was on the edge and they needed to fund a Mo Salah, selling Werner, I just have an inkling that
I wouldn't think twice about it, honestly, if it was for Salah. Salah is on another tier to Werner.
Yeah, fair enough. I just say that hold on to this for this one fixture. I think Everton defensive numbers aren't
but Salah
really
has Fulham, bro. So like ultimately you say hold on to. That's what I'm saying. If it's for Salah, you move. If it's for the other two, for KDB or Bruno, you can afford to wait out this week, right? Because it's a derby. It could be KG. But if you have to move him on for Salah, you have to do it this week.
Yeah, fair enough. Because that's a move you're going to make long term, and you're going to hold on to Salah long term.
Yeah,
precisely. So while we're on the topic of this, we would like to point you guys out, if you haven't already seen it, this very good fixture congestion matrix made by Lego Mane. So it details all the rest periods for different teams over the game. As you can see, the City have a very congested schedule between Manchester United and West Brom, between Southampton and the League Cup. So bookmark this, save it, and have a look at it before every game week. It's definitely going to help you in your
just taking you guys through very slowly, just very briefly in terms of what's happening there. Liverpool do have decent fixtures, and they don't seem very cramped, but they don't seem as cramped as the other big hitting teams. City do have a tough schedule. I actually think United's schedule is pretty cramped post
because the League Cup makes it difficult, right? Because you have Everton away.
Exactly. So, and Sheffield, Leeds and Leicester are pretty close, and even the Wolves game after that is pretty close. You'd expect Bruno to be rested for that Everton game, nailed on for the test in the League Cup, and he should start all the other games, because we saw this week against West Ham as well. We cannot afford to drop him at the moment. Chelsea, comparatively easier schedule as well, but the problem with Chelsea, and when thinking about assets, is that they have a bigger squad. At the moment, they do have injury problems in Hudson-Odoi and Ziyech as well. So that's something you need to think about. Spurs, I wouldn't care about the fixture congestion schedule, because Kane and Spurs are going to play 98% of the games there. So that's something that shouldn't worry.
Agreed. There's no worry
just
about
looking at that. I've got a wild card planned in game week 16, and that's just giving me a headache looking at that 2-day period. Where it's going to be waving goodbye to the family to come up to the office for a few hours. I think it's going to be quite a tight. Well, some two-day turnaround, isn't it? So,
I think your game week 16 wild card is going to be focused on 18 and 19 in terms of blanks and doubles, and then I think
hopefully a lot of the decisions will probably be dictated by those fixtures rather than weighing up which player to go for, I think. So that's what I hope anyway.
All right. So we've got a lot of big hitters performing, which leads us to the next hot topic, which is enablers. How do you afford these big hitters now? Who are the